think every kid wants to learn how to fly. And so for me, I'm watching my brother play this game, the skaters hitting the ramps and just flying in the air.
I think God instills a vision and gifts in us, right? So he gave you the gifts that are required to be a pro skateboarder, right? You need those gifts, but you also had the vision of where you could go with that.
And so I prayed that prayer all the time, and now I've traveled to more countries than I can count.
But I love how you're also like, you don't got to be a weird Christian.
Right.
And you don't got to be like a hardcore Bible thumping Christian.
For me, it was like, no, I'm going to skateboard. I know it's not going to be easy, but I know that it's possible.
Come on. All right, guys, I got a treat for you today. I got a pro skateboarder on the show, a man of God. I got Beaver Fleming with us today. Beaver, I'm so pumped, man, to have you on the show. Thank you for your yes. And the reason I'm so pumped is I was telling you before how God really told me to give him this podcast and to make it the Christian entrepreneur. And what that really to me is it's people that are glorifying God through the unique gifts that God has given them.
Yeah.
And we're really seeking to make God our CEO. We're really seeking to bring God into every part of the marketplace. But never before on this show have I had a professional skateboarder, man. So welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you, Cody. I'm honored to be here. So pumped on everything you're doing and building and just you producing the content, man. It really goes a long way. And I see all the interactions and engagement and just know that you're touching people's lives. And so stoked to be here and share a bit of my journey and what God's been doing in and through this wild ride of being a pro skater.
Come on, man. He's been doing a lot. And guys, just so you know, to give him a little more credibility, he travels with Nitro Circus. He's one of the crazy guys that does the drop and jumps on the ramp, you know, who knows how high and does crazy stunts. Dude, I think I saw a video of you doing like a double backflip on a skateboard.
Yes, sir.
That is insane. And you landed it? Was that your first time landing that trick?
Last year was my first time landing it, and it was cool. Nitro Circus just put out a video because I basically had been trying it ever since I started touring with them. So over 10 years of trying this trick, and then the ramps got a little bigger, a little better, board technology got better. And yeah, last year on our 20th anniversary tour, I ended up putting it down.
Dude, a double backflip on a skateboard. That's so rad. Now, I got to ask, you know, skateboarding, has this always been the thing you felt called to do as a little boy? Like what has the journey been like? Tell us a little of the journey of how you become a pro skateboarder. Yeah,
no, you mentioned the word called, and 100%. I felt called to it. I felt drawn to it. Growing up, I grew up in Tennessee. Skateboarding wasn't like here in Southern California where every kid and their uncle is skating down the street to the beach, and there's 65 skate parks in San Diego County. It was so foreign out there, but I love the idea of being an athlete, like pushing yourself and putting your body on the line and learning things and growing and being competitive. And skateboarding, when I found that, ended up finding it through my brother playing the Tony Hawk video game.
Let's go.
Shout out to the brother. And I was just like, this is it. This is incredible. These guys, I think every kid wants to learn how to fly. And so for me, I'm watching my brother play this game, the skaters hitting the ramps and just flying in the air, right? It's like they're defying gravity by utilizing the momentum of the board and the trajectory of the ramp. And I'm like, that's it. That's how I'm going to learn how to fly.
Come on.
And so it's wild now being able to skate all the big mega ramps and hit these ramps that are massive. And
you're literally flying.
To me, it feels like flying.
I'm watching you. I'm like, this dude's flying, but yet he lands on the board.
And then you keep flying and then you hit another ramp. It's wild, man. But that's really what drew me to that. And I just love the idea of it. It taught me all these spiritual principles, like whether I knew it then or not. Looking back now, if I would sow hours and hours and hours on my board, I could reap this harvest of tricks. And it took time. It taught me patience. It taught me to, not expect the microwave. I call it in our culture today, microwave mentality, where it's, I want it all. I want it right now. It's like, no, you've got to slam your body on the ground a few times. You got to, leave skin on concrete. You got to smack your shin with this piece of wood like 20 times before you land a kickflip. And it just taught me patience. It taught me to enjoy the process and enjoy the journey. And it's shaped a lot of how I live my life and approach all kinds of different things.
Dude, that is so good. There's so much to unpack from that. One is you talked about, what's even just the thing you just said, the microwave mentality, that instant gratification. You shared, it took you 10 years to get this trick.
Yeah.
And, as an entrepreneur, I have this like thing I teach of stay in the game long enough to win. Even Galatians 6:9, if we want to go to scripture, says, do not grow weary, for in a proper time you shall reap a harvest.
Yeah.
And do not grow weary in doing good, specifically doing good, right? And I think that's the distinction of doing what aligns with God's will and his word, right? But you didn't even grow weary. Like, you're like, man, my calling is skateboarding. I want to fly. You don't have to go land a double backflip, but yet you continued to try. And after 10 years, you land it. And same with your career. I'm curious, what are your thoughts around why you think so many people have the microwave mentality, why they're not willing to stick with something for 10 years like you did? Like, how do you think that plays a role? Like, why are they doing that? And how do you think that plays in holding them back from their full potential with God?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a few things. I do think that there's an agenda. Honestly, I mean, we'll just go there. I think there's an agenda for the enemy to not want us to live to our fullest potential. Yeah. He doesn't want us to succeed and become everything God's calling us to become. And one of the ways that he does that is convenience. And I say this all the time, micro compromises cause macro frustrations.
Wow.
When you compromise in the small things, eventually you're going to get so frustrated that the big things aren't happening. And people just want to settle. They would rather be comfortable than, uncomfortable pushing themselves and developing a skill to get that massive breakthrough and that dream that's possible. I talked about being from a small town with a big dream. It was crazy having a dream to move to Southern California, be a professional skateboarder. That mentality didn't exist for a lot of people that I was around and growing up. And a question I was always asked, well, what are you actually going to do with your life? Yeah. But for me, it was like, no, I'm going to skateboard. I know it's not going to be easy, but I know that it's possible.
Come on.
And I think for me, that was knowing that it was possible. I didn't care what it took as long as I would get there eventually. And thank God, I truly believe, like the Bible says in Proverbs, commit to the Lord, whatever you do, your plan will succeed.
Come on.
And so I took that whatever. I took my skateboarding. That was my whatever. I'm like, all right, God, if I'm doing this, I'm going to commit it to you, trust you with the process, and I'm going to put my time in. So that time on the board, on the asphalt, out in the heat, out in the cold, whatever the elements may be, I'm going to continue to show up because I know at that proper time, I'm going to reap a harvest. I'm truly living a life beyond anything I could have dreamed of as a kid. And I think for me, how to navigate that microwave mentality and not succumb to it is just to continue pressing on and know that there's more and endure that. I think as a culture, we've gotten so comfortable and just so complacent because things have been handed to us. We've had a good life.
Right.
We've had opportunities. It's been chill, but now it's getting like chaotic. There's a lot of crazy things going on. And I think it's because we as a church have been silent. We've been complacent. We haven't really had a fight. And I think you have to fight for that dream that you have. Fight the good fight of faith. Take hold of the life that you're called to. And it's one of those things, you got to take hold of it. You got to grab onto it and cling to it with everything you have. Give yourself to it. Given it will be given. Give yourself to God. Give yourself to the call. And you're going to see a beautiful life right ahead of you.
Come on. Two things that really stood out to me in what you just said. One is people didn't see the vision that God gave you. So you were like, I know I'm going to be a pro skateboarder. And I'm sure even your family and people doubted you, and friends and family and acquaintances. One of the things that I think God instills a vision and gifts in us, right? So he gave you the gifts that are required to be a pro skateboarder, right? You need those gifts, but you also had the vision of where you could go with that. And that kept you going, but not everyone around you saw it. So the first thing I want to ask is, how did you stay true to that vision when even people you loved and people that cared about you didn't see the vision and doubted the vision? Because a lot of people listening to this podcast, God has given them a big dream, Beaver, a big vision. But like my mom I love my mom, but she was one of my biggest doubters.
Yeah.
Because she didn't understand entrepreneurship. She didn't understand business. And I now realize God didn't give her the vision.
Yeah.
I shouldn't expect her to understand what God has called me to do.
Right.
So how did you handle that as a young boy who's like dreaming of being a pro skateboarder? Did your family always support you? Did they doubt you? Like, what was that like?
My family was super supportive. They, we didn't have a lot of skate parks, so my dad hired guys from Texas to come. We built an 8-foot ramp in the backyard.
Dad.
Go Dad. He would send me to Woodward Camp, which is just, they have like 15 different skate parks out in the middle of Pennsylvania, and it was a summer camp. I would go there for like 2 weeks every summer. And then eventually Woodward, they had one out here in California, and I went there for my senior year of high high school. They had a boarding school program. And so they were super supportive. But yeah, there was a lot of doubt as well as like, okay, but is it actually going to be a career? Is this actually going to be a way that you can make a living? And I just continued to just believe in it enough to like silence that noise and just continue to trust. Like, I know it can. I don't know how. And I think sometimes, even if we don't know the how, we got to just be willing to try a lot of different things as well. Yeah. You know what I mean? Whether it's starting a brand, building a company, it's like, all right, I know the what, I know the vision, but I don't know the how. Just go crazy with it, you know? Yeah. And so that was kind of what I did. Like, I would film videos skateboarding. I would, do demos. I would do competitions. I didn't know which path was going to unlock. And then eventually, like, some things are going to start to build. Some things are going to start to grow. And then you start to drive in that lane. And then you kind of diversify later as well. Like, okay, this is cool. Can I branch off and do something here? And, my life and how I make a living doesn't even exist. I can't apply for this on LinkedIn. You know what I mean? Yeah. Which is so funny. It's like I've literally been able to create a lifestyle by just trusting that God had a plan and a purpose for me. And it doesn't even make sense on paper. Like we just went through our taxes from last year, my wife and I, and we were looking at it, we're like, this is so incredible that a job that literally does not exist has been able to provide for myself, my wife, and our 18-month-old Oliver. It's incredible. It's just a testimony of God's faithfulness.
Now, when did you take off in skateboarding? What age were you? What was your big break?
Yeah, so my big break, again, I was still living in Tennessee, but I was competing. It had spanned into the national level, amateur level, and there was this contest called Tampa Am, which is a massive skateboarding industry event. I ended up placing third in the vert, like big half pipe discipline, but we didn't even have one of those vert ramps in our town.
Oh, wow.
The closest one was like 3.5 hours away. I would skate it maybe every other month. And I'm competing and placing top 5, top 10 in this event. I got top 3. I'm like, okay, if I'm able to do this and not have the resources to practice on this, when I get there, something's going to shift. And so that was the moment that I really decided I've got to figure out how to get to that boarding school. And thankfully, my dad supported it enough. He took another job, and it was crazy God story. Literally, the amount he got more from taking this new job paid for my tuition at the boarding school. And so then I'm able to train there and skate there every day. I'm 17 at the time. And while I was there, I ended up meeting Travis Pastrana, who was, the founder of Nitro Circus. Yeah. And on my 18th birthday, from connecting with him, I was on a flight to Australia for my first tour with Nitro.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty crazy.
So at 18, you had the drive knowing you could do that.
Yeah.
Your dad made a sacrifice, but it sounds like God provided a way. And then you meet Travis Pastrana at that event.
Yeah.
And then from there, you've been with Nitro Circus?
Yeah, for over 12 years. This year's 12 years. Crazy.
Dude, man, I remember watching Travis Pastrana when I was a young boy, thinking like he was the coolest guy ever. Was it the first to do a double or triple backflip on the dirt bike?
Double backflip on the dirt bike, yeah.
That was insane.
Incredible.
Yeah. Dude. Come on. So now you're with Nitro Circus. How has your career progressed as you've traveled with them? Has it always been the same thing? Have you progressed? What's that been like? Yeah, I mean,
Nitro Circus, the whole idea of it is just getting your friends together and seeing what's possible on whatever your sport is, So from freestyle motocross, BMX, and me on a skateboard, we just get together. We would do awesome things at Travis's house, test new ramps into airbags, and literally our goal is to just find out what's possible, And so through that journey, I've been able to land so many crazy tricks that didn't even exist in video games.
Wow.
And it's just been a wild ride.
Dude, that's so cool. So now you're 12 years into doing that. So you travel. What does that look like? Like, how much of the year are you traveling with Nitro Circus? Is there so many shows you got to do every year? What's that like? Do you still do pro skateboarding events or just Nitro Circus?
Yeah, I still compete professionally. We just did an event at Bob Burnquist's house. He had a pro mega ramp kind of contest going on this past weekend, which was just a blast. Done X Games. Tony Hawk had a competition earlier this summer I was a part of. So still on the competitive track. And then with Nitro, the schedule kind of shifts every year. I head out in a couple days to go to Colombia. So that's one of the international shows. And then we have a North American tour with 30 stops happening this fall. Yeah.
Let's go, man. Well, that's awesome, dude. I love what you're doing. So now I want to ask some really cool questions that I'm so excited because you're a man of God, yes?
Yes, absolutely.
You're pretty bold, you would say, with your faith?
I mean, it's everything.
Come on, man. What made you want to incorporate your faith into your skateboarding career publicly?
I mean, God has given me everything. He gives me breath in my lungs. He's given me a beautiful life, a beautiful family. He has given me the opportunity at life, you know? And from a young age, I always had a deep relationship, with God, and I'm so grateful to have grown up in a Christian family. It was Southern Baptist, so it was tough at times. I challenged the church a lot of times, especially wanting to be a pro skater, because I would read the Word of God for myself and see God has plans to prosper, not to harm, a plan to give a hope and a future. Like, he's actually for me to go after whatever I want to do that I feel called to. I don't want to play it safe and just get a, regular job or figure out something. Like, I feel called to more. I feel called to, go to the nations. I feel called to travel. One of the most powerful books I read at a young age was The Prayer of Jabez. And it's about Jabez, like, Lord, take me, like, lead me, guide me. It was like, dear Lord, please help lead and enlarge my territory. That was one of the most incredible things of that book. Like, Jabez is praying, like, his name means to cause harm or something. He's like, God, let me not cause harm, but enlarge my territory. And so I prayed that prayer all the time, and now I've traveled to more countries than I can count. And I believe it's from sowing that seed of praying that prayer and believing, like, God, all right, enlarge my territory. What does that look like? It looked like, for my life, taking a boy out of Tennessee, moving to California, going to Australia, going to New Zealand, all over Europe, all over, America, to just go and, I always joke and say, shred and spread the love of God through shredding a skateboard. It's what I love. It's what I'm passionate about. But my relationship with God has just been continually growing, especially when that pivotal time when I moved from Tennessee to California. I was like, God, if I'm going all in on this dream, I can't do it alone. Like, I need you with me. I can't do it by just sheer might or strength. I need you. You're the one that gave me this dream. I'm scared. I'm terrified. I'm leaving my family. I'm leaving everything that's comfortable. I need you to be in this with me. And so that's when I really started, I would say, to live on my own faith rather than my parents' faith, start to pray for myself, open up the Word for myself, and try and really develop and create that devotion time. Like, God, I need to know you're with me because I'm scared.
Yeah, dude, that's so good. Thanks for sharing. And I think we need Christians who are building with excellence and with the gifts that God has given them to where he's called them to be bold now more than ever.
Absolutely.
You hit it on the head earlier, man. The church has lost its fight.
Yeah.
Christians have lost their fight. And times of peace and no fight, eventually things are going to start to fall apart.
Yeah.
We're living in that.
For sure.
And now we're starting to see boldness come back. We're starting to see the fight come back in Christians. Beaver Fleming, how are you using your platform of professional skateboarding to honor God?
I'm just trying to be the light. I feel called to be the light. Every industry is dark to a degree, but skateboarding, there's a lot of darkness out there. There's a lot of people struggling with, drug abuse, different things at the skate parks going on. A lot of people get into skating because they don't fit into culture and they find, I can go do this on my own. I can be myself. And it's kind of an isolated place to be. It's an easy place to hide. But I feel like, man, where the darkness is, the light shines all the brighter. So I've seen just such beautiful fruit and testimony of even standing, like the Bible says, do you see a man skilled in their craft? They will stand before kings. I've been so blessed to, like I said, compete at Bob Burnquist's house. What a king of our industry.
Yeah.
Skate Tony Hawk's private ramp, a king of our industry. Like, these are the kings of this industry of skateboarding. And I'm blessed to have been able to connect with these guys and just put out what I feel God has placed within me. And I don't think it's it's not that, like, is it difficult? Yeah, but only in the sense it's not that hard, if that makes sense. It's it's simple. The gospel is simple. It's just loving others, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your soul, and love your neighbor as you love yourself. And it's having that relationship with God. And I think out of the overflow of that, it transcends everything that you do. And so that's what I just try and do. I don't try and show up with this hard agenda. It's like, hey, I'm just here to love on people. I want to meet you where you're at and love you into who you can become. That's exactly what Jesus did.
Yeah.
And for me, that's all I try and do. It's like, I don't want to just preach or yell at people or tell them you need Jesus. It's like, that'll come. Right now, you just need a hug. You need someone to hold you. You need to know that someone cares about you. And I'm able to care about you because God cared about me and how much he cares about you, and just sharing that love, again, by who we are. Not always what we do, but it's just becoming that person God's called us to be. And I feel like that takes a lot of pressure off it, because I don't have to worry if I'm doing it the right way, saying the right thing. It's just showing up and being led by the Spirit day in and day out. Ministry looks different in every atmosphere and place that you're called to. And I think we've got to be more attentive to the Holy Spirit in that, and know and how to discern. Because I think a lot of Christians have turned a lot of people away, especially in skateboarding. There's been people that have tried to do revivals at skate parks, all in the right meaning, but they know nothing about the industry. They know nothing about the people. They're just Bible, you see those people with Bible thumping on the street, and it's like, yeah, but are you willing to engage in a conversation and actually hear this person's heart and where they're at right now? And I think the more we can do that, the more effective our ministry will be. Not tolerating the sin, but loving that person that is struggling in the sin or wherever they're bound.
Come on. I love how you mention effective. One time I was learning more how to minister to people, and I'm a leader in men's ministry and some other things at Awaken. And I remember a guy named Alex Greenberg. I was talking with him. He said, Cody, ministry is really simple. You meet someone where they're at, and you help them get to the next step. And, you talked about Jesus in Matthew 22, I believe it is, basically saying these are the only two commandments. Like, everything hangs on this.
Yeah.
Right? And loving God and loving your neighbor as yourself. And I love that, man. Like, he also says that we are set apart. That we're called to be holy, that we're called to be righteous, that we're a city set on a hill in a high place. And I just think it's so cool to know, like, you're a professional skateboarder. You're in these rooms, you have these influence, you're around these kings in your industry, and God is using you as salt and light in those rooms.
Yeah.
But I love how you're also like, dude, you don't got to be a weird Christian.
Right.
And you don't got to be like a hardcore Bible thumping Christian. You get to do what you do at such a level of excellence, but submitted to God and loving people, that out of that, you're leading people to want to know the Jesus that you know.
Yeah.
Dude, that's so good.
And it's been so beautiful, like, whether, people have accepted Christ in a moment of a conversation, or you just plant a seed and they're like, hey, I remember when you said that at this event. Like, I went to an event 2 weeks ago, and this guy was there. We had another event earlier this summer. He had a bum knee, like, heard it in the event, and I just prayed for him.
Come on.
He was like, oh man, dude, Beaver healed me at that event.
Wow.
I'm like, I didn't heal you, Jesus did. But it's just the things that they remember. It's like, this is my competitor, right? But it's like, no, I don't care about that. I want you to feel whole. I want you to feel restored. If you're feeling pain in any area, maybe it's physical, I know a guy, I know the...
You remind me of Rex. Jesus, if you're anywhere around the neighborhood.
Exactly, but that's what it is. It's like, man, if I see something like that, my heart breaks, and I just want to be able to give whatever the Lord has for me and on my heart for that person. And
so do you pray for people on tour when they get hurt?
Absolutely, yeah.
Have you ever struggled with the boldness to do it?
For sure. I think we all do. But again, it's just being in that uncomfortable place, but willing to go anyway.
Come on.
I think we're all scared of everything. Like, even people ask me all the time, like, am I scared of hitting these massive ramps? 100%. It'd be crazy if I wasn't scared.
Right.
Like, there would be something wrong. But as I know, as soon as my wheels click over, instinct kicks in. It was kind of like the same thing before I became a father. Like, while my wife was pregnant for 9 months, I'm like, I've never been a dad before. I have no idea what this is going to be like. It's scary. It's intimidating. But as soon as I held baby Ollie in my hands and saw him, like, instinct kicked in, and all of a sudden, and I think that's the way that God, like, kind of orchestrates it. It's like, we're stronger than we know. Yeah. And time again in the Bible, the Old Testament, be strong, be courageous. God's already calling us calling that out of us, drawing that out of us. But how many times are people praying for strength and courage? I think sometimes we just have to go.
Yeah.
We just have to move. Like, strength and courage is already on the inside of us.
There.
He put it there, but we have to be willing to step out in faith and say, all right, God, because I believe, I will go. I will go boldly. I will go courageously. It doesn't mean we always hit it perfect, but hey, we give it a shot. We go for it, you know?
Yeah.
I've fallen more times on that double flip than I've landed it, but I was willing to go every single time.
Come on. Dude, you got me fired up right now. Man, I love it. And I hope, I know Beaver's getting y'all fired up too. Here's a good question. What persecution or hardship have you faced because of your boldness with your faith?
Persecution or hardship? I think just getting, and everyone gets it, like when you're a believer, there's going to be people just trying to throw stones or, you know, call you out for being I don't even know what the word exactly is, but judgmental, things like that.
Oh, you're self-righteous.
Self-righteous.
Say stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, none of it sticks. It doesn't really affect me, honestly, because it comes out of a place of insecurity and not knowing who God is.
Yeah.
People are projecting this false idea of who they think God is, but that's not who God is, you know? And I know who my relationship with God is. I know who the Lord Almighty is and how much he loves, how beautiful his grace is, and how much he does not condemn the person.
Come on.
You know, and I think if people understand that, and so I don't really think about those times that I have been condemned or persecuted or anything like that. It kind of doesn't really affect me because if anything, I feel sad for them in ways and things like that. And honestly, it opens up doors. I kind of embrace those because it's like, all right, well, let's have a conversation about it. Why do you think God is that way? And let me tell you the truth.
Wow.
Because that might be something that you've believed. But again, it's like the world we're living in right now. If you believe a lie long enough, it becomes the truth to you. I think a lot of people have a false view of who God really is. Yeah. And again, the Christian church culturally hasn't done a good example of leading and loving. But when we do and we show up in love and in power and truth, that's what sets the captives free.
Have you ever had a big door closed or a brand deal or anything like that you've never gotten because you're a Christian?
There was a couple of like campaigns, content creations, and things that I think kind of in the 2020 craziness season, people saw what I was doing or what I was about that didn't really go through. But same kind of thing. I mean, wouldn't change it for the world. Yeah. Right now, like some of the partnerships I have are the greatest partnerships.
It came out of your boldness.
Came out of the
and
boldness.
And you know why I ask it? Because that is such a limiting belief and a lie from the enemy.
Yeah.
The reason I ask it, like even today, I run the Christian Entrepreneur Club. I gather Christian entrepreneurs from all around the world together in community. And I hold these calls a couple times a week, sharing and inviting people to join us. And there was a guy I could just feel the spirit of fear and deception from the enemy, that if he's bold about his faith, his business won't do well.
Wow.
And I've spoken on stages. I've prayed for people. I've been bold at secular events, and I've seen people get saved after. And I remember even like this real estate lady came up to me and she's like, my brokers told me I can't talk about Jesus because my real estate business won't do well. And I'm like, that is not true.
Right.
That is not aligned with God's word at all. And I promise you, if you just seek him first, Matthew 6:33, seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, all of these things will be added unto you. So I like to ask, and like maybe now and then something doesn't go through because someone is just fighting God in that. But I've just seen blessing overflow on the other side of boldness.
100%.
And I was just curious, as a pro skateboarder, you're pretty bold, like, because people have this like limiting belief, like, oh, if I'm bold like Beaver, I'll lose contracts or clients or opportunities. But that hasn't been the case for you.
No, I mean, there's events maybe I haven't been invited to that I'd like to more, but at the same time, it's like, am I going to focus on what I don't have or what didn't happen, or am I going to focus on what God is doing and what is happening? And for me, it's like, okay, one door shuts, another opens. It's true. And God's always going to provide doors.
Come on.
You know, trust him. We know his word, and he has a plan, again, to prosper, not to harm, a plan for a hope and a future. If I'm not seeing anything taking place that is, fulfilling, then all right, I'm going to trust God's got something. Maybe I need to develop an area. Maybe I need to develop a skill. I don't know what it is, but if the enemy's throwing opposition or shutting doors, what is open that I can go all into?
That's so good. I mean, you're sponsored by Public Square. You're wearing the hat
Yeah,
right now.
absolutely.
Phenomenal company to be sponsored by.
Yeah.
And I would imagine that door open because of who you are.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's incredible. This company literally got birthed out of our church, out of Awaken Church.
Out of Bressie.
Out of Bressie, yeah, the campus we go to. And yeah, shout out to the Seiferts, but they're incredible. Just their boldness and courage. And I saw what Michael was building and was just so inspired by him. And I was like, okay, well, how does this, it does affect everything. I want to represent you guys in the action sports world, because I think to be an action sports athlete, a professional in our world, you have to just carry values and standards and not waver, right? You have to know exactly what you're going for and go all in. And that's exactly what, to me, Public Square is. It's like, all right, these are the values we stand by and we go all in. And so it's been so cool representing them in that world and seeing how many people are so grateful that a company like Public Square exists to show them, hey, we can better our economy by bettering ourselves too. And just the lines and standards they hold, it's beautiful. And we were even able to get them, they sponsored one of the Nitro Circus tours, which was so cool to see their logo. And it just kind of came full circle and was like, man, that is awesome. But I couldn't imagine representing anyone else or something that I can feel more passionate about promoting on social media or anything else than Public Square.
Come on, dude. That's so cool. I love that. All right. So next question. You travel a lot.
Yep.
And you have a wife and you have a young child.
Yeah.
Does your family travel with you? If not, how are they involved? Is that hard? What it's like being a professional athlete, having a wife, having a kid? You bring them with you? Do they stay home? You know, these are good questions to ask. We got a lot of families at home, a lot of people that
for sure
they struggle with that.
Yeah. We try and be together as much as possible. So on the trips that we can bring them along, they're right there beside me. The ones we can't, they send me off. They're praying, you know, we're FaceTiming every night and keeping in touch and just keeping me encouraged and motivated. But for me, again, like I had to go in my life, and this is something I really want to leave with my son, Oliver. I had to, I had to like really test if all things were possible. You know what I mean? Like, God, is this dream real? Like, can this really work? I really had to like put my faith into action to kind of test that. I don't want him to grow up with a shadow of a doubt. Whatever he wants to go for, I want him to believe that it's possible, because I paved the way to, again, make a career that didn't exist on paper, but God was so faithful to provide and meet me at my expectation of what I believed in. Because I believed I could do it, he opened this door, he opened this door. Public Square came in and we did a partnership. All these incredible things that I've been able to do because of just trusting God.
Yeah.
I want him to be like, man, well, all things are possible. Like, I don't want him to ever doubt that. You know what I mean? Like, where I had to sometimes 10 years with the double backflip. Do I give this thing up? You know, I always joke, I've walked up that ramp so passionate, like this is the one it's going to happen. So frustrated and mad if this thing doesn't happen right now, you know, crying like, come on, Lord, let this trick happen. But it comes to a point of like, you just got to continue to fight the good fight of faith, continue to show up, continue to press in. And so I want to lead by example to my son, Oliver, and like, hey, this is what we do. This is who we are. This is how we live, and bring him along for the ride. I think for a long time, like, I still have a great relationship with my mom and dad. Like, they're still together. It's beautiful. But I didn't really always know what my dad did. And we have this conversation a lot because that was kind of the culture of the times. It's like dad goes to work, handles the thing, does the bills,
Kinda
doesn't
old
really
school,
communicate
how it
with the
was.
kids what he really does.
Yeah.
You know, I know he was in advertising. I really don't know exactly what that means, like sales manager, but even if I didn't need to know all the details of it, I wouldn't have minded just hanging out in his office, watching him do what he does. You know, so, I mean, obviously Oliver's still only a year and a half old, but even yesterday I was out just skating the little ramp in the backyard we have, and he was just watching me the whole time, you know, and it's like, I want that relationship with my son. I think Jordan Peterson says it best. He's like, your kids have you have the opportunity to have the best relationship you can have with anyone with your kids. Like, that's on the table, but it's up to you to show up and be their best friend and develop that relationship in such a way, because in your eyes, they're a superhero, but it's up to you to continue to be that, you know, kind of superhero to them and have that strong, powerful relationship. And Oliver is seriously, he's like just such a beautiful child. I'm so blessed. And I'm like, I want to keep this relationship where he sees me and he smiles every single time he sees me. it's up to me to stoke that fire.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm kind of getting choked up because it's one thing I'm like, I want to resolve to never lose is how he views me and sees me. And I think the way to do that is to be vulnerable, to be real, to be like, hey, dad doesn't have it all figured out. And that's okay. And again, I think our culture, like the dad had to have it all figured out. And now we're seeing repercussions of that in our day and age where father and sons have really dysfunctional relationships. And I think to encourage any families out there, let your wife in, you know, she's your helper.
Yeah.
Let her know what you're doing. The times that I've communicated with my wife, Gabrielle, and been like, hey, what do you think about this deal? What do you think about this opportunity? And she's had a discernment that I didn't see. Always, whether I want to admit it or not in the moment, incredible wisdom and discernment. Yeah. She is there for that. But again, I think that's the devil's agenda. He doesn't want us to know the value of our wife to be our helper. So we're not going to let our wives help. But wait, I need to give him a helper is what God said. It's not good that man would be alone. I'm going to provide a helper. But if we don't let them help, we're just compromising our own opportunities.
Yeah, it's so good. I love that, man. And it's like God created it that way or something.
Yeah.
You know, and really, I see two areas really under attack right now by the enemy. One is family. Mm-hmm. I think he's been going hard after family and creating division and marriage. You know, the first covenant's with God, the second covenant's with our wife. Yeah. And they're the two most important decisions we'll ever make in our life. Yeah. Is giving our life to Jesus and who we marry and spend our life with. And the family unit is actually perfect by design. God created man and woman. They will thrive. Yeah. It says the Lord blesses man and woman if they're in agreement. Yeah. And I think about that a lot. Dude, my wife, so discerning, Esther. And now I'm at this point where I don't actually want to make any big decision without my wife looking at it. Yeah. Because I know and I trust her discernment. And I know we're on the same team. And I know God designed that she can see and discern and understand things. Even sometimes people, right? Sometimes our wives can detect something on people.
Oh, for sure.
We can't. Yep. And then, you know, like I'll go somewhere, I'm just very people person or out extroverted. And Esther be like, I'm not sure about him. There's something off. And we'll pray into it, an opportunity, you know, say a door business deal or something. She's like, I don't feel good about going in business with that person. And then like 4 months later, something big will blow up and we'll be like, oh my God, we dodged that fire. Right. And had my wife, had I not brought her in, had she not been involved, had I not listened to her discernment, had we not made our decisions together being in agreement, I think about all the things I would mess up even more.
Right. 100%.
So that's good. And then, being a role model for your kid, Tim Grover, Coach Michael Jordan, Dwayne Wade, you know, all these guys, Kobe. I remember one time listening to this like motivational tape of Tim Grover talking about, you know, him leaving for work a lot and traveling to go on the road with these professional athletes and daughter coming in and daddy, can't you just stay home, this and that. And he basically was like, no, I have an example to set for you. And I thought it was a really interesting perspective because there's a lot of people that attack, well, you leave in this and that. No, your priority should be God, your wife, your children, then your business, then your ministry. You should do it in that order, and all that should be right. You should not compromise your marriage for a career. However, you're also setting an example for your son of knowing like you really are pushing the limits of what's possible on that skateboard. Yeah. Like every day you're waking up and going, and I just think that's so cool. You know, my dad, dude, I love my dad, but he's in prison 29 years. I never had that. I didn't have that relationship. I didn't have that role model. And I just think that your kid's going to get to grow up with a dad that knows the Lord and is going to say, my dad went for it. Yeah. You know, my dad was a pro skateboarder. Like, my dad invented tricks. Like, my dad did this and that. So you're getting me inspired over here, bro. That's cool, man.
Yeah. No, it's exciting, man. It's a joy. And I think, again, it's like there's no perfect formula for it. And the word God gave me, like the biggest when I was so nervous about, you know, becoming a father was you don't need to be a perfect father, just be a present father. Wow. And that's really stuck with me in the times that, you know, deadlines, distractions, whatever, phones going off, whatever, really like harnessing like that. All right, just be present with my wife, with Oliver, with the time.
And it's hard,
me.
dude. And being real, it's not always easy.
No, it
do.
is not. Yeah.
You got a lot of pressure on you and a lot of things. But God has grace, man. Yeah. God has a grace on us when we prioritize the things he told us to.
For sure.
And so that's so cool. All right, I got a question for you. What is your vision and dream for, your future with your career and even after skateboarding? Like, what's kind of the vision? Where do you want to go with all of this?
Yeah, I mean, right now I still feel called. My body, I'm 30. I feel
You're young,
like I'm in my peak right now. Honestly, I skated this contest last weekend and I'm like, dude, I feel good. I feel healthy. I feel like I'm strong on my board, and I kind of want to make sure I squeeze as much juice as I can out of this time. And so right now that's kind of where my drive is. We're getting ready to go on this Nitro tour, hoping to do a lot of brand new stuff, learn stuff, and figure things out, and also continue. I think more for the future, definitely more competitions, have some more goals in the competitive space that I want to hit. I want to film like a really unique video kind of style, and just highlight my unique approach to skateboarding in a really powerful way. And then I just want to continue to inspire the generation. I see myself helping mentor, the next generation and doing some coaching, but also just kind of like helping, like, hey, how do you stay committed to your values? Like, obviously there's people that want to sponsor you or whatever, but how do you know which ones to say yes to, which ones to say no to? And just really show people too, like, how can you honor God with your craft, with your career, kind of in all action sports. I feel a calling on that. I've had the privilege and opportunity to do a lot of ministering and speaking with really powerful ministries and churches all around the world, from Australia to New Zealand, out in Maui, Hawaii. We go there every year to do events and stuff. And I really feel called to kind of go to the next level in the ministry and gifting God's called me to.
And you will, and you are. I love that, man. That's so good. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
What encouragement would you have to someone listening who has a passion and a dream, but doesn't know how God can use it for his glory?
I mean, I think you said it earlier, but just Matthew 6. Seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you. And you can seek him in what you do. Everyone's so, I would say our world identifies people by what they do, but God sees us for who we are.
Come on.
Because who we are will always influence what it is that we do. So I think for encouraging people, just really be intentional about, all right, rather than what you're going to do, because I always say it like this, what I do changes every day. Some days I skate, some days I speak, some days I'm filming content for a sponsor. Every day I'm a husband, every day I'm a father, every day I'm a child of God. But who I am will always influence what I do. So really deciding, okay, well, I want to be a faithful man. I want to be an honest man. I want to have integrity. I want to have discipline.
Yeah.
I want to be diligent. I want to have excellence. I want to skate. That'll influence how I skate. It'll influence my relationship with my wife. It'll influence how I raise Oliver.
Come on.
It'll influence how I speak. If I want to be excellent, that influences it all. So again, find what are these godly values, and that's how you're able to honor God.
Come on.
Again, whatever it is, do it with all your heart as working for the Lord, not unto man. It's like, whatever we do, it doesn't matter what you're doing. It matters who you are in that position and how are you operating it. Are you doing it with faithfulness? Are you doing it with integrity, doing it the right way? God honors that.
Yeah,
and that'll open so many doors. And so for me, my whatever was a skateboard. I chose to apply those principles to skateboarding, and it's worked out better than I could have ever asked or imagined.
Come on.
And so whatever that is, however crazy that dream is, whatever that vision is, whatever that gift is, cultivate it and do it to the glory of God. And that's how you bring him into it.
That's so good. I love that. Now, I'm going to shift the gears to the world's pretty chaotic right now.
Just a little, right?
Just a little bit. We've got elections, like 20 days away, maybe 21. We have wars going on.
Yeah.
Israel's being attacked. We still got the Ukraine war. Natural disasters hitting our country, 2 back-to-back hurricanes.
Yeah.
Devastation that I don't think anyone expected to be as bad as it is. A divided nation. There's a spirit of fear attacking a lot of people. I just want to give you a moment on this platform. We reach a lot of people with this content. What would you speak into your brothers and sisters right now going through this, people that are scared about the future?
I would say it's time to seek God at a higher frequency than we ever have before. We're so worried about the things, and we're consuming all the chaos as well. And what we feed will grow. Yeah. What we starve starts to die. Let's feed and cultivate that relationship with God at a higher level, and eventually our fears are going to kind of dissipate, or they're not going to be as massive as we think they were.
Yeah.
Same thing with dropping in a big ramp. Is it scary? Absolutely. But as soon as I go, I know I'm capable of it and it works out beautifully. But if I'm not willing to go and let that fear intimidate me, I'm never going to see what's possible.
Come on.
And for those that are just struggling with the confusion, those are the two big things right now I see in the world, chaos and confusion. But confusion breeds chaos. And I see so much confusion because we don't know the truth. Then you would know the truth and the truth would set you free. Jesus said, I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life. What a bold statement. What a bold claim to be the truth. Not your truth, not my truth. How much do we hear that in our culture right now? I'm just living my truth. Well, how's that working out for you? Most of the people I hear say that have more anxiety, more depression, more frustration, more relational issues than other people I know.
Yeah.
And it's because they're living selfishly in that, not by the truth.
Come on.
And the truth is only offensive when we lie to ourselves.
Wow.
And I said it earlier, if you believe a lie long enough, it becomes the truth to you. So we have all these people that are so confused right now because they've bit that lie. And culture has sold them a lie. Media has sold them a lie. And it's unfortunate, but I think the way that we combat that is to seek the truth. Seek the Lord while he may be found. Right now, he's able to be found by those that are willing to diligently seek him. And it takes time. It takes patience. It's uncomfortable. If you believed lies long enough and they feel like that truth to you, it takes time for that to kind of like scale back and be like, wait, I was lied to here. They lied to me here. School taught me this, but I believed it, but it was a lie. That's tough to swallow sometimes.
Yeah.
But change can happen. And again, you said it, our country is so divided right now. It's heartbreaking, but where there is unity, God commands a blessing. We are the United States of America, and I believe we can be united again, but we've just got to get out of our own way. Push the pride, push the ego, push the agendas aside, seek the truth, be set free, and then we're free to be that united nation again and have beauty. And a lot of the chaos will fade at that point.
Yeah, so good. Satan is afraid of a united body of Christ.
100%.
And he'll do anything he can to cause confusion.
Yeah.
To create chaos, to create division out of that. So I love that, man. And just everyone listening to this, know that, you see Beaver on here today. It's amazing to see how he's used his gifts and the dream God gave him. And he's been diligent. And now he's seeing the blessing of that, but just the boldness that he has. And guys, we gotta stick together.
Yeah.
We do. We need to set our differences down. We need to start loving each other. We're the only two countries in the world that have been founded on God, Israel and the United States of America.
Wow.
And we are a nation under God.
Yeah.
And I believe, I was reading, it's in, I think it's in Psalms. I wish I could remember it, but it talked about God healing the land.
Yeah.
And I believe God is going to heal our land.
Yes.
And
Amen.
I believe it's going to come from the way that we treat each other, the way that we love each other. Those first two commandments that Jesus said are the most important. So I love that. And guys, be bold. Get out and vote. We cannot sit on the sidelines.
Yeah.
We need to stand up for righteousness. We need to stand up for what's right in this world. Beaver, where can people find you? Where can they connect with you?
Yeah, you can connect with me. Well, we'll be 30 stops across the United States on the Nitro Circus tour. If you're feeling inspired and want to come out, come check out the website, nitrocircus.com. Find out where we're coming to a show near you. Otherwise, you can find me on social media at Beaver Fleming on pretty much all the platforms, and then beaverfleming.com as well. So,
come on.
Yeah.
Dude, I love that, man. Well, it has been an honor to have you on the show, and I mean that. I love what you're doing, man. I love your boldness. I love your heart. It's so cool to see a man or a woman who's so excellent with their craft that they do stand before kings and they continue just to point right back to Jesus. So I have a lot of respect for you. Thank you for what you're doing. Keep doing it. Keep being bold. And I know lives were changed today because you were willing to come on this podcast. So thank you.
Absolutely, man. Thank you, Cody. Appreciate you, man.
All right, guys, go make it a great day.